In Algebra 1, Section 1.7, we are solving absolute value equations. So basically, the absolute value is not just a number, but it's a distance from 0. So you can go multiple ways. So for example, if I'm looking for the absolute value of 5, I'm looking for numbers that are the distance from 0 that are 5. Well, positive 5 is 5 away from 0, but also negative 5 is 5 away from 0. Because distance is distance, it's neither positive or negative. So if I go to the store and I go back, all that is still travel time. It's not like it cancels each other out and it turns out I haven't traveled anywhere. I did travel. I traveled there and back. So absolute value is distance. So you think distance, okay, and you're thinking positive. So the absolute value of 5 is the two numbers that are the same, that are 5 away from 0 is negative 5 and positive 5. So if I'm looking at number 1 and I'm looking for the absolute value of 12, okay, that means that I'm looking for either negative 12 and positive 12. Two answers. Now, they're going to try to trick you, not trick you, but make it a little bit more tough by throwing more things in the equation. But as long as you follow the rules that you followed, mainly the same rules that you followed for the last sections, you'll be just fine. There's just one thing to keep in mind. You treat this all as 1 until you can isolate, until you can solve for it. So what that means is, I need to get rid of everything before I even look at the absolute value. So everything on the outside, I have to get rid of it. So here's 3 that's on the outside. And how is it being attached to the absolute value? Well, it's being attached by multiplication. So in order for me to get rid of it, I have to divide. This then cancels, and just like the other lessons that we learned, what I do to one side of the equal sign, I have to do to the other. So then I have to divide this by 3. I end up with x plus 7 equals 24 divided by 3, which is 8. Now I haven't solved it yet. Okay? Because now that I have this plus 7, my answer is not just positive 8 and negative 8. My answer is, this can either be x plus 7 can either equal 8, or can be the distance of 8, or x plus 7 can be negative 8. So what this is saying is that x plus 7 equals the distance of 8 away from 0. So I have two possible answers. X plus 7 equals 8 or x plus 7 equals negative 8. Two different answers when it comes with absolute value. Now, once I put those two answers, once I account for both possibilities, I no longer need the absolute value sign. That's where I get rid of it, and now these are just two small problems that you're used to solving. Piece of cake. So x plus 7, I'm going to subtract 7 on both sides. Right? Because I need to get x by itself, okay? And what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So I have x equals 1, okay? And then I do x plus 7. I do the same thing, subtract negative 7 from both sides. I do x equals negative 15. So that means I can put a 1 here, find the absolute value. Okay, so I want to show you how that works. So I'm left with x equals 1, x equals 1, and x equals negative 15. And the equation is 3 absolute value of x plus 7 equals 24. So what this means is, if I actually put in these numbers, so let's do x equals 1, right? I do 3, the absolute value of 1 plus 7 equals 24. Well, 1 plus 7, the absolute value is 8 equals 24. The absolute value of 8, okay, that means this is the distance that 8 is from 0 is still 8. So 3 times 8 equals 24. I end up with 24 equals 24. Check. Now, the next one, I'm doing x equals negative 15. Now, 3 absolute value of negative 15 plus 7 equals 24. Now, I end up with 3. The absolute value of negative 8 equals 24. Okay? So, what this means is the distance that negative 8 is from 0 is 8. Even though this is negative 8, the distance negative 8 is from 0 is 8. So my answer is still positive 8. That's what the absolute value gives me. It gives me we're focusing on the distance, so 3 times 8, right? And I have 24, same, equals 24. Check. So that's the two answers. Both give me that value 24. All right? So go ahead and pause and write this down. I do want this as part of your notes. We're going to go back to the board, but before I put it away, just pause it and write it down, just so you understand what I mean about distance and when it comes to plugging in. Because once you understand the absolute value concept, it doesn't become too difficult, but it can get confusing, and then you'll carry that confusion throughout the rest of the chapter. All right. So, moving on to here. In this case, we're going to add 8. Right? I'm trying to do it, but I have to isolate the absolute value. And what's on the same side of the absolute value is negative 8. So I'm going to add 8 in order to get rid of it. So add 8. I end up with the absolute value of x plus 2. Bring down this, and this gives me 0. It's supposed to be an arrow. Okay? Because there's only one value of 0, I can't have a positive 0 and a negative 0. All I have to do is x plus 2 equals 0. And I'm going to subtract by 2, and that gives x equals negative 2. Okay, so this one is an example of just one answer, because I don't have a positive 0 and I don't have a negative 0. Sometimes, even though I work it out, I end up with the same answer. That's also one answer, but that's okay. It's not that it has to be 2 answers every time. It's just a general rule that there is. Okay, the next one is here. And we're dealing with a positive 3. We have to get rid of it in order to isolate this and solve. So I'm going to do negative 3, negative 3. I end up with the absolute value. This cancels out, right? I end up with the absolute value of x plus 4 equals negative 3. This plus is attached to this. Sorry. Just wanted to let you know. But these cancel out. So I did x plus 4 equals negative 3. Now, it's tempting to just go ahead and do x plus 4 minus 3 equals minus 3, and x plus 4 equals positive 3. But the thing is, an absolute value is distance. And just like I said, distance will never equal a negative. So once I've isolated it, so this one is equal to a negative, right? But when I brought the 8 over, it gave me a 0 or a positive number, so I could continue. But this one I brought over, and I ended up with an entire absolute value equals negative 3. An absolute value, just like distance, will not be a negative number. So because this absolute value equals a negative 3, and since that doesn't exist, this is no solution. So once I've isolated the absolute value, and I still end up with a negative number, I end up with no solution. All right? So hopefully that you understand that a little bit more. Go ahead and pause this. Don't forget to do vocabulary. Write this down. And try page 57, numbers 1, 3, 7, and 9. 57, numbers 1, 3, 7, and 9. And I will see you in class.